Hi, good morning. Thanks for having us here today. I'm going to tell you about a brand new initiative that we're working on. In fact, we're just launching it in the next few months. So, what myself and my colleague Maisha are mostly here today to do is learn from you folks. To give some context, I'm going to spend maybe 5 minutes just introducing what Blackbird Labs is, because I think it's an important context for this initiative that we're trying to put together, together with the Critical Path Institute and others. So, Blackbird Laboratories is a new organization about 3 years old. We're based in Baltimore. We're backed by the owners of the Baltimore Ravens, if we have any football fans in the audience. About 4 years ago, they decided that they wanted to make a big commitment, both philanthropically as well as from an investment perspective, to try to bolster the life sciences ecosystem in Baltimore, and then sort of by connection to that, the surrounding regions. So our founding mission, and it's a nonprofit institute, and then has a connected for-profit investment fund. I'll say a little bit about that. Blackbird's founding mission is essentially to work with universities and entrepreneurs in the region and in other regions to help commercialize their technology and build biotech companies in the Baltimore region and the greater Maryland region. And I think many of you are probably connected to colleagues in other ecosystems or visiting from other ecosystems. I think we're trying to emulate some of the great success that has been achieved in places like Boston and San Francisco. So again, I won't. This is not totally on point for this audience, but I'll just give you a little bit of context. The family has put $100 million of philanthropy capital into our nonprofit. We also have access to several hundreds of millions of investment capacity downstream of that. The goal there is really how do we use non-dilutive, early stage, but very focused grant dollars to do things that the investment community is not willing to do, and then build them into things that perhaps the private sector can then take forward and scale. And I think hopefully that's a theme that will resonate with you folks as it relates to NAMs and MPS and other systems that I think we need the whole industry to chip in on more. We have a team of 14, mostly scientists, mostly folks with operating experience in the biotech industry. I won't say more about them now, but just wanted to give you a sense of the scale of the group that we've put together. And we've essentially have made a couple dozen grants to universities, as well as deployed a lot of funding ourselves to generate data packages that then move forward into companies. We've invested in 18 companies. 4 of those we helped to launch. I'm going to tie this into NAMs and MPS because we have ambitions to try to bring some of this capacity to bear on this subject matter. To date, we have focused mostly on new therapeutics, and so that's another element maybe of our relevance here is we're professional drug developers. I think we can bring that perspective to this conversation. And there's some other parameters on here for those who might be interested. We have almost an 8x leveraging of every grant dollar we've put to work has resulted in $8 of investment downstream of that from other folks, largely bringing more investment into this region. And we've assembled a whole cast of characters in terms of partners. I'm going to spend a few minutes on a facility that we've just opened in the last couple of months, which relates to the effort that we'd like to put together with the Critical Path Institute. We call that the Blackbird BioHub. It's a 35,000 square foot incubator facility that's only about 45 minutes from here. It's in Baltimore, but it's kind of at the southern tip of the city. On the left here, you'll see a list of companies that we've helped to move into this space, and that they're setting up their businesses. The idea is that, as many of you have experienced with the incubator facilities, they're in here until they might be 10, 20 employees, depending on their needs, and then they would move out to larger space. But it's sort of a continual flow of helping small companies to get traction. I'll mention our university partnerships, which we hope will be useful to this effort. And then, per my earlier comments, I mean, we have, in order to scale this model, we have a lot of really intimate relationships with early stage venture capital partners. This is a list of folks that we've already invested with in our current portfolio, and that we'd like to get excited about some of the topics that we're hearing about these couple of days. So this brings me to what we're calling initially the National Center to Accelerate Cures. He's not here today, but Abhi Kulshrestha, who is the head of something called ArrowPoint Labs and also the head of Maryland Innovation Initiative, brought this concept to us, and something that he had developed in collaboration with Klaus and Nick and others at CPATH, to basically use our physical footprint in Baltimore to build out a lab that would contribute to this cause and try to take advantage of the fact that we have a team of drug development experts, and also a lot of capacity. We are excited to kick this off with a $3 million earmark that we've just been notified about in the last couple of months. That's coming to us via NIST. We have general plans for that, but again, a lot of what we'd like to do today is learn, what areas would be useful to focus on, and in particular, what partnerships could we form with some of you folks in your organizations to make sure that that this initiative is put to good use. So again, we haven't started any programs. I thought what would be useful is just to sort of describe what we see as capabilities that we can bring to bear. And I'm hoping that I think we're holding questions and discussion to the panel later this morning, but I'd love to get input from this group on these areas. We will have dedicated bench scientists working in the lab. We have currently a plan to sort of run this in sort of a lean fashion using the leadership of that I've already referenced from ArrowPoint, from my team, and from CPATH. But we're very open to, I think, having a strong network of partners, and that may result in, folks becoming a part of this permanently. We do have, and I'll show you what our facility looks like in a couple of slides here, but we do have a 5,000 square foot dedicated rodent vivarium on site, just adjacent to the labs, to the extent that that may be useful for benchmarking studies or other studies. And here I'm listing, again, to this audience, I don't have enough knowledge to speak credibly to this, but we're listing some of the ideas for domains that we're open to working in here. And again, would love to get your input and calibration on that. Resources, we have a brand new lab. It's outfitted with great equipment. We have a lot of capacity. We're about 30% full as we're launching that right now. And so there's a lot of room to grow. I think our vision would be that this could be sort of a test bed for interesting technologies, and particularly through partnerships, but that ultimately this could also be a place where companies that are focused on specific technologies and commercial deployment of that could take shape and be supported by this environment, and also the financing environment of some of our venture capital partners. I will also mention that we have master research agreements and pretty in-depth collaborations with Johns Hopkins and University of Maryland. We're open to partnering with any academic or other research institutions, but we have particularly sort of low barrier to entry agreements with those two places. And so I'm noting here, as many of you will already be aware, they both have made huge recent investments in computing resources, and we have access to that. We also have access to the great biology and other work happening there. Here's just a quick schematic of our lab. It's based on what many of you would have seen in terms of like biolabs and Lab Central and Alexandria launch labs and things like that. I'm not going to get into all the companies that are in here. I will mention that we have a range of therapeutics companies, some diagnostics companies. We have an operator that operates our animal model facility as well. And this is where we would house the National Center to Accelerate Cures, which we're launching in the next couple of months here. I mentioned the location. we failed to put on this slide NCI. Forgot that we were going to be here today, but we're within an hour from lots of you folks, and I think a lot of people that could contribute significantly to this. We are in Baltimore City because of our backers are huge fans of Baltimore and want to see that ecosystem grow. I think I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll look forward to having some questions and discussion later on today. Thank you.